Committee. I'm joined here today by my colleague, Ed Flynn of District 2. This public hearing is being recorded and live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV. It will be rebroadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and Verizon Fios Channel 964. We will take public testimony at the end of this hearing. If you wish to testify via video conference, please email shane.pack, that's SHANE.PAC @boston.gov to sign up. When you are called, please state your name and affiliation or residence and limit your comments to no more than 2 minutes to ensure that all comments are heard. And you could also submit your written testimony by emailing ccc.wm, that's as in Ways and Means, ccc.wm@boston.gov. So today's hearing is on docket 1085, message and order approving an appropriation of $182,841,467 for the purpose of paying costs of designing, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new 6-story Josiah Quincy Upper School building at 900 Washington Street in the city of Boston, including the payment of cost incidental or related thereto. And also on docket 1086, which is a message and order approving an appropriation of $8,550,000 for the purpose of paying cost of designing, constructing, equipping, and furnishing a new 6-story Josiah Quincy Upper School building at 900 Washington Street in the city of Boston, including the payment of costs incidental or related thereto. And so we're joined here today by the Public Facilities Department and also by BPS, and I believe by the architect for the new school building. I want to acknowledge that this is a project that has been hoped for, dreamed of in a community in Chinatown for a long time. I grew up in Bay Village, next door to that community, and actually 3 doors down from the existing Josiah Quincy Upper School. So I'm well aware of the sort of long-running nature of this project and people's excitement about it finally happening. Before I go to the administration to kick off the panel, I just do want to give my colleague, Counselor Flynn, who is the counselor for both the current upper school and the new location where this one would be built, the opportunity to just say a few words at the outset. Counselor Flynn?
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Bach. I want to say thank you to the Public Facilities team. I want to say thank you to the BPS team. I want to say thank you to the architect and to Mayor Walsh and Pat Brophy that did a lot of work together, working with the residents, working with the community. I know Councilor Bach mentioned Chinatown and the Bay Village and the Leather District area, the downtown area. But I'm so proud of the hard work everybody has done, including the person that had the job before me, Bill Linehan, wanted to see a Josiah Quincy school here as well. So I want to acknowledge Bill, but what's important is that this school will show the city that we can build a beautiful building, a beautiful school community in the heart of an immigrant community, in an immigrant neighborhood. And we respect immigrants, we respect low-income residents, and that their voice is important. And I'm so proud of the team that's working hard to make this happen. I see my friend Richard Chang is on here. I know Cynthia Suhu is doing an incredible work in the community as well. So I want to say thank you to Richard. I want to say thank you to Cynthia and the JQUS community, not only in educating our children at the school building, but doing a lot of work on food access issues, on public health issues, on working hard to make sure our immigrant community is treated fairly. So I want to say thank you to the JQUS community. And I want to say thank you. I see Carlton, I see Brian, Samuel, and Jim, and Jay, and others, and the architect. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Councilor Bach, and looking forward to obviously supporting this, but I'm looking forward to hearing the presentation and want to thank all the panelists for being here, but more importantly, for their hard work in making this dream a reality. Great.
Thank you so much, Councilor Flynn. And since since I opened the hearing, we've been joined by my colleagues, Councillor Liz Braden of District 9, Councillor Michael Flaherty of at large, and Councillor Julia Mejia at large. So I'm also just going to give them a chance to very briefly just make any opening remarks, and I'll figure out if this is the right order later. But Councillor Braden, if you want to go first.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'm excited to hear about this wonderful project, capital investment in our school buildings in our neighbourhood. I know that in my neighbourhood out here, we have the Jackson Man complex, which will hopefully be going through this process in the near future. And I'm excited to learn about the process and excited to know that we're going to add another wonderful school building to our city. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Braden. Councillor Flaherty and then Councillor Mejia. Councillor Flaherty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to be on record of supporting this matter. Obviously, Councillor Flynn knows his district better than any of us, so I'm happy to support him as well. It's a great day for him as the district councilor, great day for Chinatown, a great day for the Boston Public Schools and all the students that attend. So it's an exciting time. So look forward to seeing where the money is going to be spent and how quickly everything can be done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Councillor Flaherty. Councillor Mejia?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, that's right. Everybody's shaking their heads. Thank you. I'll be really quick. So just wanted to thank the chair, Councillor Bach. I don't have much to say, which is surprising, other than that I'm really grateful that we're having this hearing today, and that I'm interested in to seeing how we can make this redesign as community-centered as possible, bringing people who will be the most impacted, namely the students and the teachers, into the conversation. And so I don't know who from the immediate Josiah Quincy School is here to represent and speak and share their thoughts, but would just know that I'm looking forward to hearing from those folks as well. And thank you for being here, to the administration and to the design team and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Councillor Mejia. And we're joined here today on the administration side by Brian McLaughlin of BPS Capital Planning, formerly at the Public Facilities Department, and then Rowan McNulty, the Senior Project Manager at the Public Facilities Department, and Carlton Jones, who's Assistant Director of Operations there, Pip Lewis from HMFH Architects, and then I think a number of other folks from BPS, and I think we've got Jim Dowd from Skanska, it looks like, BPS, Nate Cooter is the CFO, Sue McCann, Sam DePina also from that team, and then we're very excited to have Richard Chang, the Josiah Quincy Upper School principal, here as well, as Councillor Flynn referenced, and I had the pleasure of doing a walkthrough with him at the beginning of the school year, and really just appreciate all the work that he does to lead that school community. So without further ado, I want to turn it over to Rowan McNulty, the Senior Project Manager for this at the Public Facilities Department, and ask him to kick us off.
Thank you, councilors. I'd like to ask permission to share my screen, if I could. And let's see. Can everyone see that? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you all for your time today. As was mentioned previously, my name is Rowan McNulty. I'm a Senior Project Manager with the Public Facilities Department. And we just have an introductory slide here to summarize some of the partners that we've been working with over the course of the JQUS project. We've, of course, been working with the Office of the Mayor, with Boston Public Schools, PFD, also closely with the Office of Neighborhood Services and the Office of Intergovernmental Relations. As we'll talk about in the next few slides, this project is in the Massachusetts School Building Authority pipeline. And so we've been working closely with them as well, and also HMFH Architects and Skanska USA Building. So I think Brian wanted to speak to the MSBA process.
I was muted. Thank you, Rowan. Thank you, Councilor Block and other councilors for attending this hearing. Very exciting time for the Josiah Quincy Upper School community, Boston Public Schools, and the city of Boston. The Josiah Quincy Upper School, as Ron indicated, is working in collaboration with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. The MSBA is the state authority that oversees the funding of public school capital projects in the Commonwealth. The MSBA is a reimbursement agency and works with local communities to create affordable, sustainable, and energy efficient schools across Massachusetts. It's funded through the Massachusetts sales tax. MSBA has two programs. The Accelerated Repair Program, which focuses on roof, window, and boiler projects in otherwise structurally sound buildings. The city of Boston since 2015 has been approved of 27 of those projects throughout the district. The other program that is run through the MSBA is their core program, which focuses on major builds, large addition renovations. Examples of that would be the Dearborn STEM Academy, Boston Arts Academy, Carter School. The reason why we're here today, the Josiah Quincy Upper School. JQUS and the MSBA share a long history. The project dates back to 2008 when it was initially submitted to the MSBA for consideration. And at 2 points over the past 12 years, there was an identified solution for the JQUS that for various reasons didn't move forward. The first came in 2013 when the city and the MSBA agreed to combine the future JQUS with the Boston Arts Academy and co-locate the schools on city-owned parcel 25 on Nealon Street, which is adjacent to the Southeast Expressway. In 2014, parcel 25, parcel 25 location proved to be too complex, and the city took a step back from the project at this location. 2014 started the second site selection process and resulted in plans to build a new JQUS on the site of the existing McKinley School in the south end and 90 Warren Avenue. However, in 2016, it was decided that the complexity of displacing and relocating an existing school community proved too difficult, and again, the project did not move forward, resulting in the need to begin a third site selection process. This third site selection exercise started in late 2017, when the MSBA notified the city that the Josiah Quincy Upper School would be able to stay in the MSBA capital pipeline with the requirement that the city have ownership of the new site by June 30th, 2019. Site selection was completed in the summer of 2019 by combining the site of the current JQUS modular units at 900 Washington Street and acquiring the adjacent Boston Chinese Evangelical Church. With the site selection complete, BPS and PFD started the third design process for this school with the support of the City Council appropriating $2.2 million for the MSBA required feasibility study. This was done in August of 2019. And now I'm going to turn it over to Pip Lewis of HMFH Architects, who has led the architectural team on the design as far back as 2011, but most recently when we started the new feasibility study process in 2017.
Thanks, Brian. Go ahead. Sure. I just wanted to give a quick overview of the overall project schedule. We have a couple of slides here to show some overall milestones that we've been taking place. As Brian indicated, we started work on this third feasibility study in the fall of 2019. We completed the feasibility study with the submission of the schematic design to the MSBA in September of this year. And we are now engaged in the process of selecting and contracting with the construction manager with the intent to begin construction on swing space to move the existing 900 Washington Street modular population of the 6th and 7th grade JQUS students to the Arlington Street campus over next summer, and then shortly thereafter to commence construction on the new construction site at 900 Washington Street, with the intent being that the construction will be complete by the start of the 2024-2025 school year. Over the course of the past few months, we've had several community meetings, many of which have involved the Josiah Quincy Upper School staff and students. The first of which was in May, where we piggybacked on the JQUS School Site Council meeting. And the second of which was in May 21st, where we had a local community leaders meeting. A few weeks after that, we met with the public in June. And over the course of the next couple of months, we also had a school building committee meeting in August. We had a public meeting in October, and also another public meeting that piggybacked on the JQUS School Site Council meeting just last week. And we anticipate continuing this process over the course of the winter as we proceed into design development. And so I think Pip can talk a little bit about the design at this point.
Okay. First of all, this aerial view is of the general vicinity of the project, and I'm glad Brian mentioned that I've been personally working on this since 2011 through all the different iterations that Brian referred to. So it's really pleasing to be at this point before you. And the site that has been selected is the site at 900 Washington Street on the right-hand side of your screen, where there's currently modular classrooms for the Quincy Upper School and the Boston Chinese Evangelical Church, both of which will be removed from that site next summer in order to make room for the construction. Now, the elementary school, the middle school students will move to the site on the left-hand side of the screen, which says swing space, which is the current Quincy Upper School facility. And they will be there for the 3 years during construction. And then the large circle in the middle of the screen is the Quincy Elementary School, really just sort of showing that as we build on the adjacent site, we're creating a great new K through 12 campus right in the middle of Boston. To the north, you've got, this is right on the southern border of Chinatown and the Tufts Medical Center to the north. To the south, you can see the Turnpike, and beyond that, the South End neighborhood. Go ahead. This is a site plan showing that it is a full block, but a very small block between Washington Street on the west, Harrison Avenue on the east, Marginal Road, which is adjacent to the Mass Pike on the south, and a small residential street called Pine Street on the north. It's a very small site with less than an acre, unusual for a school. So you'll see as we go through this, it's a tall school. And you'll also see the measures that we've been taking to make sure that the school becomes a good neighbor to the residences nearby. The photographs across the top of this actually are different photographs of Pine Street, kind of indicating the sensitivity that we're paying to the small 3-4 story brick buildings that are along there. And as I go through this, I'll show you some of the things that we're doing in order to make for a better environment along there. The building, as I said, is tall. It's 6 stories tall, which is unusual for a school. These are 2 sections taken through 2 critical parts of the building. You can see the general organization of the layers of classroom spaces or the academic floors on the top of the building. And on the lower 2 floors, you see the large community use spaces, auditorium, gymnasium, cafeteria, and the media center, or the library. These are designed for easy access from the students, but also easy access from the community, because we think that this building will become a great neighborhood sort of facility with lots of resources for the people who live in the community. But one more thing I want to point out on here is, just if you go back, is on the top, it says green roof, and we are carving out educational space on the roof of the building, because that really is the only significant open space that this building has. Go ahead. I'll go just very quickly through the floor plans of the building. This is the main floor, the first floor. You can see the main entrance to the left on Washington Street. It's on a pedestrian plaza that's sort of pulled back away from Washington Street for safety, and it's covered so that the students can wait out of the rain. As you come into the building, you'll see the library or media center to your left, and then to the right, a large cafeteria and kitchen space opened up. Also in that area is a large welcoming public stair that will easily transport visitors to the school up to the 2nd floor. Go ahead. Of the building, where you have these major spaces, the gymnasium, where you might have basketball games, the auditorium, and the black box theater, where performances or community meetings might be held. These are all designed so that the building is designed and zoned so that as the public has access to these lower 2 floors, they can't get up higher in the building. And so you don't have to worry about them wandering through the academic floors of the building. And go ahead. As you get to the upper parts of the buildings, I said you have the academic floors. I'll just show you one typical academic floor. What I want you to notice here is that most of the main classrooms are facing south. This is a beautiful exposure for the schools in terms of daylighting, you can see also there's a modern science complex on each of the floors. There is open space in the middle, which we're calling project areas. There are also small group areas. These are spaces where students, small groups or a whole class can break out of the classroom and do projects or presentations throughout the building. Because it's entirely a wireless environment, it's really reflecting the fact that education can occur anywhere in a building. On the extreme right-hand side, you see band, and just below that is an orchestra room, the 2 noisiest rooms perhaps in the building. And you will see how they are sort of nicely isolated acoustically from the rest of the building by a corridor and a stairway. Go ahead. Then we get to the top of the building. This is really exciting, where by taking all the mechanical spaces that we normally have on the roof of a building and sort of carefully positioning them, we were able to reserve a large rectangular area in the middle of the building for this outdoor educational space. So students can come up here, get some fresh air, do some outdoor learning, in small groups or a whole class size. There's a student garden. There's a photovoltaic array so that students can study solar energy. And there's a small, even a fitness course so that you can get a little bit of exercise on the outside of the building. It's a green roof, so we'll have a lot of green planting and things along those lines to make for, I think it'll be a very good environment, making use of whatever outdoor space we can find on the building. One more thing I want to point out about this is how, as you come up higher and higher in the building, you may have noticed that the building sort of zigs and zags away from Pine Street, pulling as far away from the residences on Pine Street as we could in order to get as much sunlight, view, and also some green spaces to sort of help out the environment on Pine Street. Just a quick walk around the building. These are conceptual elevations. We're working actively with the Boston Public Schools and public facilities to refine these. But this is the west elevation from Washington Street. You can see that entry plaza that I talked about, which is covered by the auditorium up above. Next, if we're looking at the building from the south, as though you're looking at it from across the turnpike. And you can see the upper academic floors where the classrooms are defined by curtain wall and individual bay windows to give a sense of identity and diversity on the facade. You can see the large shared use spaces, the auditorium and the gymnasium, and the music tower, essentially, if you want to call it that, on the right-hand side. And on Harrison, because of the shape of the site, the building becomes very narrow, and that's where you see this element that we are tending to refer to as the tower. I want to point out one thing here is that the lower portion of the building is being defined in brick, and it is about the same height as the other residences on Harrison and on Pine Street. And so if you go to the next slide, this will be the view from Pine Street. You can see that first 2 floors where those public spaces are being defined in brick, being about the same scale, and also stepping back when we can from Pine Street in order to create a sense of relationship to the immediate community.
Thank you, Pip. Brian, I think you wanted to speak to this slide.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for that, Pip. Before opening up to questions, just wanted to give a quick overview of the request that's going before the City Council today relative to the funding of the balance of the Josiah Quincy project to support the construction. The total estimated cost for the Josiah Quincy Upper School project is $193,841,467, with an estimated maximum facilities grant of just over $54 million from the Massachusetts School Building Authority. To date, $2.2 million has been approved by City Council to support the design. That vote was taken in August of 2019. And today, the BPS and City of Boston is requesting the City Council support the appropriation of $8,550,000 from the sale of Haywood Place, in addition to $182,841,467 from the General Obligation Fund to support construction of the new Josiah Quincy Upper School. And now I think we can turn it over to the council for questions.
Great. Thank you so much. And I think probably it makes the most sense to stop sharing screen just so that everyone can see each other better. And Carrie, for some reason, the screen is pinned to Councillor Mejia. Do you mind just adjusting it? Okay. I'm going to give the right of first question asking to Councillor Flynn, since he's the district councillor for this area. Councillor Flynn.
Thank you, Council Block. Thank you, Council Block, and thank you to the presenters for presenting a very good plan, very informative. I had a couple of questions. Can you tell me about the building itself? What will the building do in terms of? I know there was some talk about absorbing some of the pollution that comes from the immediate streets. What is that plan, and what can you give me just like a little bit of background about the infrastructure design, I guess, that you're making to address that issue?
Sure, Pip, I think you might be able to speak to that.
And thank you for that question, because it's something we've been wrestling with ever since like 2011, 2012, because we're aware of the Tufts professor's report. Brugier, I think is his name. I'm probably mispronouncing it. Indicating that this particular area, because of the intersection of two major highways, has probably the worst air pollution in the whole Commonwealth. So with that in mind, we're designing the building in order to mitigate that as much as we can. We are upgrading the quality, let's say the fineness of the air filters that are used to bring air into the building. The building will have, which a lot of buildings don't, will have fixed windows. And that's so that all of the air that comes into the building, and the building will get plenty of good fresh air, will be filtered so it's cleaner than if you were just opening the window to the turnpike or something along those lines. We're also working with our mechanical, electrical engineers in order to place as much of the air intakes as we can on the top of the building, because the air is clearer up there. Also, that's where we have the outdoor play areas on the top of the building. The air is a little bit cleaner up there. And all of those measures sort of preceded this current COVID crisis that we're going through. But we're also designing the building with a sort of an energy efficiency mode, which is how it would operate normally, and then being able to toggle it quickly to, I don't know what you want to call it, pandemic mode, where we're bringing additional amounts of just fresh air through the building for increased ventilation.
No, that's a great answer. Thank you, sir. And maybe my follow-up is, I know a lot of our school buildings have been built, many decades ago. and we've had problems with leaking from rainstorms over the years. But what are we doing on top of the roof and in the walls to deal with rainstorms or leakage from the rain, from the water?
That's another question for me, I think, and just being aware of the problems over the years of roofs leaking. We're paying a lot of attention, providing a very high quality enclosure for the building. We're bringing on the best consultants to make sure that there's no slip ups and things like that. At the moment, we're interviewing enclosure consultants who will help us ensure that the building is watertight. We brought on a landscape architect who has a lot of experience in Boston and in other places building occupied rooftops. So they have a lot of experience in terms of the handling the water that comes down onto a roof, the waterproofing in order to keep it out from the building, dealing with the soils and the planting and the just irrigation, all the different matters that will impact that area, so that in the end we are as confident as we can be that we will have a really good watertight, vapor-tight enclosure that will last for many years.
Thank you. Council Block, do I have time for one more question? Or
I will grant you time for one more question. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question is, can you just talk a little about the elevator system that you're going to have in the school? How many elevator sites are you going to have, and what are the safety concerns or safety issues that we're dealing with in terms of the elevator system?
Well, Councilor Flynn, you're certainly asking all the right questions. And we have brought onto our project an elevator consultant, Siska Hennessy, who has helped us with and will continue to help us with the elevator design. And then we also are using a company called Beta Group, a transportation consultant. Usually they're dealing with cars and things like that. But in this case, they're helping us with the design of making sure that our stairs have adequate capacity for large numbers of students moving up and down in the building. Anytime you have a school this size, one of the critical items in terms of whether it's a successful school or not is whether you can move students, large numbers of students, quickly up and down through the building. The schools have expressed a desire that, to the greatest extent possible, this vertical circulation, if you will, of students from lunch to classroom and things like that will occur on the stairways. But one of the things that Beta is supposed to do for us is to sort of run simulations of large numbers of students going up the stairs to see, is that practical? How long does it take students? Do they get tired out, et cetera, et cetera? And of course, the COVID issue has prevented us from actually carrying through with that, but it's still on our agenda. If the school opens up, we'll be having 200 kids over at the Arlington Street building going up the stairs, and we'll be timing them and things like that. But we worked with Siska Hennessy for the elevators because we want to make sure that we have a great elevator system for the building also. And they gave us a scenario of 3 elevators. So you asked how many, there are 3 of them in a row. They will work in sort of a sequence where one follows the other. And at the peak periods, which is when you're taking large numbers of students from the cafeteria, which is on the 1st floor, up to their classes that might be on the 6th floor, or the 5th floor, or the 4th floor. So we're essentially running the elevators as sort of express shuttles up to that level. So you'll have the elevators running in sequence from the first floor after lunch, let's say, up to the 5th floor, and following each other in quick sequence so that as you get a large group of students gathering at the elevator, they're getting on, but only so many people can get on. As that door is closing, another elevator door is opening. So you don't get the frustration of pushing and shoving, trying to get on the elevator. We assume that students will only be allowed to ride the elevator when there's an adult on the elevator. That for the most part, students will not be, generally will not be allowed to just use the elevator for going up and down between classes, except if they have a mobility need. So I think we're being as careful as we can with that and as conscious as we can with that to come up with a building that works very well in terms of vertical circulation.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. Appreciate your answers. Thank you, Councilor Bach. And I fail to acknowledge and thank State Treasurer Deb Goldberg, who ultimately oversees the school building authority. So I want to say thank you to the Treasurer, Deb Goldberg, as well. Thank you, Councilor Bach.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilor Flynn. I will reserve my questions to the end. So I'll next go to Councilor Braden. Councilor Braden?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation. It is very, very exciting. How many students will this facility serve?
650.
650. And the grades again? K through 12?
No, the grades are 6 through 12.
6 through 12.
6 through 12?
Yeah, we'll be right next to the Quincy Elementary School, which is K to 5. So I'm saying it creates a K to 12 campus.
Very good. And will it function like a hub school in the sense that it will be available to community organizations for presentations and adult education, or is it just entirely for the service of those 6 through 12 grades?
No, I'll take that one, Councilor Braden. I think currently one of the great things about the Josiah Quincy Upper School is the collaborative efforts they made in the community in partnering with various organizations in and around Chinatown. And I expect that to continue when this new building comes online, especially given the additional space with the auditorium, the gymnasium, the larger cafeteria. So if I know Richard Chang, he's going to be working closely with his partners in the community to make sure that they not only see the new school, but have a chance to experience it firsthand.
Yeah, that's very, very encouraging. I view school buildings as year-round facilities for the community, not just for the school year. And I think making it accessible to community organizations is a great way to build support and bridges with your surrounding community. So I'm glad that's going to continue. Those are all my questions for now, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilor Braden. Next up is Councilor Flaherty, and then it'll be Councilor Mejia. Councilor Flaherty, you still with us? He may have had to jump off, so I'll go straight to Councilor Mejia.
Wow. I always come into a hearing ready to fight. I don't have anything to fight about. I don't even know what to do with myself at this point. So, Councilor Bach, I have to say this is one of the most exciting hearings of 2020. But I do have questions, though, so don't get too comfortable, y'all. So first and foremost, I'm just curious about what role student voice played in the design effort of this new school. How have you incorporated their voices, if at all? I'm also curious about what languages have your community meetings been offered in? Have you advertised to residents that these meetings are available, and have utilized multiple ways to be able to inform them of these meetings? And then my trick question for Brian or Nate, I don't know who, but one of y'all are gonna have to answer this one. I'm just curious about whether or not you all are thinking about, I mean, this is a big project, and if we're thinking about minority business owners and opportunities to really build with a racial equity lens, aside from our fabulous architect firm, I'm going to assume there's going to be other opportunities to expand and include minority businesses in this process. And I'm just curious about what that looks like for you all and what efforts you're making to ensure that we are creating opportunities for other minority businesses to be a part of this incredible venture. So who wants to go first?
I can answer the question about the community meetings, if that helps, Councilor Mejia. Thank you for that question. Yes. So we have had several meetings with the Josiah Quincy School students and with the faculty as well. Actually, our first meeting back in May was immediately after the JQUS School Site Council meeting. And so we found like that attendance for those meetings was very vigorous and very well informed. And our most recent meeting just this past week was also with them as well. And so going forward, one of the items that we've been discussing about engaging the JQUS school in terms of the design effort is the roof. So as Pip mentioned during the presentation, the roof design is a really wonderful opportunity here. And so we actually just had a discussion with Richard Chang and Steve Strosolo from the JQUS earlier this week about opportunities that we can involve the students in that design effort as well. And to answer your question with regard to the meetings, we've been working with Lisa at Neighborhood Services to encourage participation with the various community meetings. We've had translators in Cantonese, Mandarin, and Spanish at those meetings as well. And we found that attendance has been very well attended.
Thank you, Jay. Before we go to the other question, I just want to have a quick follow-up, Jay, in regards to the roof. Is it just like, are there going to be something on top of the roof, or is it just like the roof? Because I don't think there's anything exciting about just how the roof is going to look. Like when you talk about roof design and you're thinking about there's going to be like plants up there and what, what, tell me about that.
Sure. Pip, do you want to speak to that a little bit more specifically?
Yes. And as I said, we brought on a very good landscape architect. So it's really going to be a landscape of the roof. And what we're doing is we're creating that large rectangular area, which will be very carefully designed around the edges so that it's a very safe area to be in terms of throwing things off or anything like that. There will be a good amount of planting on the roof. In fact, we're going after a lead point, which is surprising. It's called restoration of native and habitat, because of the types of planting and the amount that we're planting on the roof. It will be native to what Boston saw many years ago. And then so in that, to that extent, it's part of, so that it can be part of the learning exercise for the students. But there will be areas of the roof that are planting areas where students can sit around and talk with each other, do a presentation, areas where individual students can work or relax. We've actually talked about the fact that it's a great thing to have for students, special needs students, but also other students who sometimes just need a moment to blow off steam. So they can be sort of escorted up to the roof and allowed to relax up there for a bit. We understand that a rooftop will be taking a lot of sun. So we'll be providing areas of shade. There'll be trellises and things like that along the roof, so that you're not just baking in the sun.
Yeah. So I before Councilor Bach throws down the gavel, I just want to make sure that we don't utilize all of the time answering the roof question, and then I let Brian and Nate off the hook. I definitely want to hear about these small minority businesses, and I also want to encourage that we start thinking about long-term planning. I'm the chair of workforce development and small business. I think that whatever we do in this, that if there's going to be something happening on this rooftop, that we can talk about how do we can create employment opportunities for young people to kind of man the roof and the greenery and, you know, all that stuff that's happening, that we're creating opportunities for workforce development in this space. So I would definitely encourage that as something that is a goal that you all work towards for that. So, but I always like to put Nate in the hot seat, so, or Brian. I don't know who's going to answer the question about the minority business. Okay, Brian.
Sure,
Nate,
I'll
a free pass.
I'm gonna open it up real quick, and then I'm gonna also let PFD weigh in, because the project is actually bid out through the Public Facilities Department. So I know, coming from PFD and working with them closely and working with them prior to coming to BPS, we really look to have MWBE, WBE participation in all our projects, and that's something that we stress, and we make sure those goals are something that everyone that is brought onto the project are aware of, and that they work hard to attain. Pip and Carlton, in terms of the actual bidding for this project and the public procurement, do you want to speak a little more to that and some PFD's efforts to make sure that we do have stronger representation from MWBE firms and contractors?
Sure. So the RFP that we recently issued for the construction manager at risk included our standard PFD front end for the Boston Residents Job Program, and that's something that they will be obligated to meet as we go forward. And as we get into the pre-qualification and buyout of subcontractors, we'll be doing outreach to MWBE companies throughout the Commonwealth to ensure that they will be participating in the project, not only in the actual construction, but we've also had some outreach and some interest in people assisting with the what we call design assist, which is partnering with the construction manager to assist with the design as it moves forward as well.
So Jay, I do have a follow-up question, and Councilor Bach, you can show the gravel whenever you're ready, okay? But it's only a few of us here, so you should allow me a little bit extra time.
I am. Go ahead.
Okay. So Jay, going back to that notion, I'm just curious. I mean, one thing is to make every effort in terms of putting out the bids, doing out the communication, but then I think that there's always an opportunity for us to hold ourselves accountable to those deliverables, right? So there needs to be some set of commitment that we're making to ensure that not only are we doing the outreach, but that we are doing our due diligence to ensure that we're contracting minority businesses here in the city of Boston. And so are there any, is there an opportunity within this particular project to hold yourself accountable to, at the very least, I don't know how many vendors will it take to do something like this? I'm not familiar with this world, but, you know, at the very least, 2 or 3% of the people that do business on this project will be minority businesses. I don't know if that's illegal or whatever it is, but I'm just curious about, I always hear about the effort that's being made, but then I don't see the outcome of that effort, right? It's like, oh, we couldn't find anyone. And that gets a little bit played out for me. So I'm just curious about, what are you holding yourselves accountable to ensure that this particular project has minority businesses who are going to be able to take advantage of this construction?
Certainly. Carlton, do you have any thoughts on that in terms of follow-up with the...
I do. I was trying to think of how you were going to answer that question. So that's always been a struggle for us, as you know, Councilor Mejia and others, that, you know, we have the city goals for the BJRP in terms of jobs and residency, and we struggle to meet those goals at times. I think it's important for all of us to have to kind of think out of the box. And one of the conversations we had with the firms that applied for the construction management had to do with, what else are you going to do, quite frankly. And they had some pretty interesting takes on what they could do. Some of it had to do with workforce development in terms of construction trades. Some of it had to do, as you mentioned, with the vendors that actually they can perform outreach to ensure that we try to get more vendors to apply. You know, with the public procurement laws, we have certain guidelines that we have to use in order to make sure that we are working within the law. But by the same token, there might be opportunities for us to kind of think out of the box a little bit. So we're not in a position position where we can say matter of factly, this is what we can do as a result. But we definitely know that we as the team, the entire project team, has the goal of getting more outreach and getting more actual minority and women-owned businesses, that will benefit from this massive construction project. I mean, it's huge. It's supposed to have a significant community impact, the Chinatown community in particular, and the Boston community at large. I mean, we want to make sure that all parties are able to benefit from this to the extent that we can.
I wholeheartely agree. And I also think that, we have Madison Park. It's supposed to be a vote tech. I'm just curious, Nate, I have to find a way to bring you into this conversation, but I'm just curious as to what you all are doing in your area to seize this particular project to help support some of our Madison Park students and developing that pipeline. I mean, we talk about creating pipelines for young people, and I'm just curious about how are we seizing this particular gold mine to be able to do just that, Nate?
Yeah, I think you're asking obviously all the right questions, and we've, Sam has looped in Madison Park on a number of projects this fall to try and do just that. I don't think we have a really clear connection between some of these programs that we could do. I was just talking with Brian the other day about the Los Angeles school districts. They have a number of workforce programs that are embedded in their school building program and have sort of formalized it. They've won, the one catchy name that stuck out to me was Helmets to Hard Hats, which is a veteran program to get workforce development. I think, to your point about the sort of what we intend to do, I think having an explicit strategy around minority and women-owned businesses, having an explicit strategy around how we're going to integrate into Madison Park with our building program is something that we need to explore. And that I'm new to this, so there may be ways that we're doing it already that I'm not aware of, but certainly for this project can be a pilot of some of those things. And then all future projects, we can start to have that ready as part of an explicit strategy to, like you said, engage the broader business community and provide opportunities, but also then create educational opportunities for our kids at Madison Park and other vocational programs. I think would be awesome.
Thank you. And just with that, I turned something easy into difficult, but I do appreciate Councilor Bach for allowing me the opportunity to dig in a little bit deeper. And Fernando, I know that you are here listening in, and I want to just go on the record stating that I want to be engaged in those conversations. Nate, if there's any way that I can help through the work in the chairmanship that I have, Brian, Jay, and Clariton, please, I am asking to be invited to that table and to figure out how I can be a thought partner in helping you all think outside the box to move the work forward. So that's an invitation and also an expectation, Fernando, that you guys are going to loop back around so that we can make some things happen. Thank you, Councilor Bach.
Thank you, Councilor Mejia. And I'll just note, I think we had a similar conversation at the last MSBA meeting, and I think Carlton, you were there, and that was about windows and boilers, and the fact that those are a kind of pipeline of projects that we should be trying to cultivate more of a pipeline of minority and women-owned businesses to help serve. And then this is obviously a new school construction project, but I want to flag, Councilor Mejia would love to work with you on this. And I think the way that LA achieved those major programs was by bundling a whole bunch of its school building work and then having a kind of PLA that built in a bunch of expectations. And I think that's what you need. And you really need $1 billion of work bundled together to really start talking about that kind of thing. And a school like this is a piece of it. So recognizing this is moving forward right now, I just think that it would be a good sort of strategic conversation for the council and for BPS and the administration to have together, because I think that's really instead of Councilor Mejia coming to every one of these MSBA hearings that we have and raising that strategic conversation and getting it deferred, I think we need to move forward and actually have that. So that is my 2 cents on that. And I'll now we've been joined by Councilor Asabi George. I also want to note for councilors that the presentation that the administration presented is in your inboxes. And I think Councilor Mejia that the aerial view of the roof and kind of all the spaces they're designing for the students is on page 12 of that, if you want to find it. All right, Councilor Asabi George.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry about that. Missing my, couldn't find my mute button. I am coming in late, so I hope my questions haven't been asked, but I do want to note when you mention $1 billion project, that is what we've invested in the Build BPS plan. And granted, most of that is underway. Much of that's been, is underway, and many of those dollars have been spoken for. We are always looking for that next $1 billion and thinking much more strategically, not just about the plans that are undone at this point, but the next sort of set of efforts. I think that would be a great place to do some of those things. On this project in particular, how are we incorporating some of our climate goals? I'm not sure if this has been asked. If it has been, just say so and I'll watch the tape. But thinking about when we think about rebuilding, renovation, and redesign and designing new, how are we incorporating some of those climate-ready elements?
That would be a question for me as the architect. And I have turned off my video just because I'm getting a signal that my internet is weak, and I've lost you there for a minute. So hopefully that will help. The building is participating in the LEED certification process. We expect that we will achieve LEED gold, and I'm hoping that we can do even better than that by working at the various components of the building to make sure that they're energy efficient, lead to great indoor air quality for the students, and are resilient. We have designed the building already so that all of the sort of critical mechanical and electrical spaces are off of the ground floor, so that and the flood maps show that we're not in the flood zone, but we're just a little bit above it. So if there were flooding, it wouldn't encumber the major operations of the building. I did talk earlier about what we're doing in terms of indoor air quality, in terms of the fact that that area has relatively heavily polluted air. And so by using really high quality filters and bringing in fresh air to the classrooms and the spaces, that we're improving the indoor air quality in the building. We're also using a mechanical system called displacement ventilation that I think was used on the Dearborn School also, which is very good for good indoor air quality, quiet operation, and also good at not mixing air between students in this as we're coming out of this COVID crisis. Or that wasn't why we selected that type of system, but it will help us with that. And just all through the building, we are a very green firm. So all through the building, we're taking measures to make sure that the building is energy efficient, that it's resilient to climate impacts, resilient hopefully to pandemics and things like that, and also using materials that really protect the environment in general, as well as indoor air quality. And also, I wanted to say we're actually complying with the mayor's December executive order to be a zero carbon building on this site. So it's an all electric building, which I had neglected to mention before.
That's fantastic. That should have been first, but I appreciate all of that. And I apologize for not being here sort of in person, but have multitasking today. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great. Thank you so much, Councillor Sabi George. Before I go to my questions, I do just want to ask Richard Chang if he wants to say any brief words just about this project and what it means for the school community. I feel like we're lucky to have you here. Principal's Day is never done. And since we've got you here today, I know that my colleagues and I would love to hear from you.
Oh, thank you very much. I wasn't expecting to speak. I don't speak until spoken to, so I guess I'm being spoken to. I just want to thank everybody in this room, the city councilors, and many are familiar with the extensive history. I feel like we're bringing in the children of Israel into the promised land here. It's been a long time coming. It's clearly a collaboration among all parts of the city departments, the mayor, the legislators, the city councilors, and the school department, the state. This, indeed, it's been said, this will demonstrate, it's like a major down payment from BPS on its commitment to excellence for our BPS children. We have 50% Asian, 25% Black, and 25% Latinx students. I mean, we're 95% students of color, very representative of the children of Boston, 85% low income. And it's a real statement that that all children deserve the very, very best. In terms of learning and the social emotional learning needs, and we indeed envision ourselves to be part of the Chinatown community, but also the neighboring communities. Whether it's South End, Bay Village. We currently already have partnerships with multiple groups within the community and all parts of the city. And so we really envision that this would be a building that's well used all year round, but also actually hopefully all day long, as well as weekends as much as possible. It's a very, very precious asset that for the city. And we're the stewards, the custodians, the trustees, and we like to take good care of it on behalf of the city, but also share it with the city, all the across the city and BPS schools and so on. We expect to host tournaments now that we have a large enough gymnasium, thanks to advocacy from the team. So anyway, there's so much to say, but it's just gratitude. That's what's in my mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for those words and for your leadership of the school community. And we just hugely appreciate you being with us today. I'll ask a few questions of the team. And I mentioned this at the start, but this is a school that's very close to my heart. I grew up 3 doors down from it. Actually was there prior to it becoming the Josiah Quincy Upper School and in some of its previous iterations, and then saw this school community take over that building and really grow into the upper school in a wonderful way. And I helped out in the middle school at Josiah Quincy when I was in high school. So care quite a lot about this school community. And I guess a very quick question would just be, there was that mention about using the existing upper school as swing space for the middle school that's in the trailers right now on the site. How's that going to work with the sort of existing footprint of the school? Like, is there really room to fit the middle school in there for 3 years?
Sure. Brian, do you want to
take that one? I'll take that one. Yeah, sure. So we worked with the consultant team, Pip Lewis, Jim Dowd from Skanska, to walk the building, identify the classroom count in some of the classrooms that have been offline and used for storage. And based upon bringing those classrooms back online, also putting some investment into the building, we're going to bring a science lab back online for the students when they swing in, updating a bathroom so it's fully handicap accessible. Based upon the space that's available at the building, and bringing those classrooms back online, making some minor investments. We do feel that based upon the numbers and the enrollment, they will be able to fully swing into the Arlington Street building, or the Lincoln School as it's referred to, for those 3 years. It's not going to be as spacious as it is right now, but we won't be bursting at the seams. So it's a negative space for these students to swing into. And obviously, we've also included Richard Chang along the way, so he's fully aware of what our plans are and has been part of the conversation. It has been helpful in relaying these expectations to his entire school community, knowing that there's going to be 3 years of swing space in the Arlington Street building.
Got it. And so what does that mean in terms of like how much investment are we putting into the existing school building over there, the Lincoln School, in order to achieve this? And is that money included in the capital budget for this project, or is that a separate BPS capital budget item?
No, we've always included a portion of money for that swing. Based upon previous projects in cost of swing space for the other, similar to BAA, we've carried about $1 million in funds to make upgrades to whatever the swing space was going to be for the Josiah Quincy Upper School.
Great. That's awesome. That's awesome to hear and understand. And can I just confirm the filters, the air filters that are going in, are those at least MERV 13 filters? Yes. Okay. I'm seeing.
Yes. Pip, you can speak to it, but yes.
Yes, they're MERV 14 filters. So we went up from 13.
That's great. That's that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I just, Councillor Flynn covered that, but it's really important at this location. And I mean, anywhere we're building close to a highway. And I assume it's sort of like 2+4 stick over podium. So you're doing the brick as that first level, and then, or is it going to be steel? I assumed it's 6 stories.
6 stories. The brick will be a veneer over the steel frame.
Over the steel, yeah, for the podium. But above the top 2, is it stick built or is it steel the whole way through?
It'll be steel the whole way, clad with different materials probably than brick.
Okay. And then I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit to how, I think it's wonderful that to the point about the promised land, right? There's all this endless searching, and now you've ended up with a site that's right next to the elementary school. And I think that's great for a school community, for younger kids to be able to see older kids and for that relationship to exist, and obviously for them to share facilities sometimes. And so I just wonder, how much has that been a sort of integrated conversation about, do we expect that there might be occasions in which the elementary school is using those gym and auditorium spaces? How are you thinking? Are there any design features in which one school nods to the other? I know obviously it's a very different construction with the cement there, but just wondering how the thinking has been about it as a campus, given the location.
Sure. I'll start off if that's all right. And I think obviously the adjacencies present the opportunity to really allow the Josiah Quincy Elementary School to benefit from this new construction project. In our community meetings, we've always included the Josiah Quincy Elementary School families and staff as to make sure they were invited to these meetings, so that not only they could understand what was coming, but be part of the process and just the overall school building design and construction process for this new building. And I know Richard and Principal Suhu already have that established relationship, which again will probably expand once this new the new building is online. And Richard, you can speak to that a little more if you'd like.
Yeah, indeed. In fact, one of our earliest iterations included the dream of having a sky bridge between the two buildings, something like where the Copley Plaza sky bridges that connect with the Liberty Mutual building. So that was not meant to be, at least not now. But that gives the idea that we certainly see this, our school, the upper school, as part of the K-12 pathway. It's like the whole dragon, the head and the tail. So we definitely envision that our elementary students could very well walk over and use our media center, which is like a library space, maker space, and gymnasium. We certainly, as much as we can, where we do have excess capacity, the utilization rate tends to be about 85%, but nevertheless, we can squeeze more economy out of the available space, and certainly after school presents other opportunities. So we definitely envision an integrated vision. And one of our retention strategies is to have our kindergarten families think about the whole journey as K-12. As you may know, right now there's always the thinking about exam schools. And so we like to think that with this new building coming online, it'll be like families that enroll, they know they're all set. You know, it's K-12, and then they're off to really great colleges. I just wrote recommendation letters for Yale, Harvard, and Stanford. So our kids are aiming really high. So yeah, so the short answer is that definitely collaboration between the two schools.
That's great to hear. No, I think that's so exciting. I think that, I mean, already, obviously, we've got in this school a place that collaborates with the YMCA and is a community center, and a place where we have community meetings, even if they're BPDA meetings, right? So it's nice to think about this state-of-the-art facility joining that sense of community life in that neck of the woods.
I should just also mention that the elementary school is applying for their International Baccalaureate authorization, and we are supporting their application. So once they receive it, the Josiah Quincy schools will have K-12 International Baccalaureate curriculum.
Well, that's awesome news. I have to confess not knowing that there was a elementary school IB curriculum, so that's wonderful to hear. I think it's definitely been a piece of making the school a choice for so many. I think those are my kind of school. Well, I guess I'll just flag that if we can't have a sky bridge, I think I hope that the BPS folks and the architects have talked with BTD. It seems to me like we should at least have a triple wide crosswalk there. I mean, it should be very, very much broadcasting that this is student space, and sort of cars are kind of, you know, in trespass mode there. In my opinion.
We've had a number of constructive meetings with BTD over the past year. Actually, we engaged them as early as last winter in the project, and so their input has been very much part of our decision making. Yes.
Okay, great. And is that the same for thinking about buses and where they're going to pick up?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Great. Awesome. All right. And then I think my last question is just to go back to the kind of nuts and bolts ways and means thing. I was wondering, and maybe this is a question for Rowan, just to go over one more time that final slide about funding. So can you speak one more time, forgive me, to the Hayward Place appropriation segment of it?
Oh, I'm sorry, Counselor. I can speak to that if that's helpful.
Yeah, that'd be great. Sure, go ahead, Brian. That would be appreciated.
Sure. So, Counselor Bach, back in, I believe it was the late 90s, early 2000s, the city sold a city-owned parking lot on Washington Street across from the Paramount Theater. And $13 million of that sale was dedicated to a future Josiah Quincy Upper School project. So over the past, since 2010, when this project has started working on the MSBA process, $550,000 was appropriated for the initial feasibility study. Then $1.7 million was appropriated for the second feasibility study in 2015. $2.2 million was appropriated in 2019, and now the balance, the $8,550,000, would be appropriated to support part of the overall construction of the project.
Got it. Okay. And then the 54, we've got 54 million that we think will be reimbursable from MSBA.
Correct. The one nuance in the vote for this project is that the Hayward Place appropriation only requires one vote of the City Council, and the larger appropriation requires two votes.
Got it. Yep. Because one is a capital. We're committing the city for debt, and then this other one is just a trust fund that we've been holding.
Correct.
Okay, great. That's helpful. And then, sorry, I said that was my last question, but I do have another one, which is just, I've mentioned a few times the fact that I grew up a few doors down from the existing building. And I know that there's a lot of curiosity and to some extent anxiety in the Bay Village neighborhood about kind of what ultimately will become of that facility. And I wonder if you could speak a little bit today to just like, both as BPS and frankly as PFD about kind of what the process would be, knowing that nothing's happening in that building anytime soon. In fact, you're about to invest a bunch of money into it to make it able to host the middle schoolers. But kind of just so that the community can understand as it sees this project sort of getting underway, what the disposition process for that would look like and what the community input into that would be. And before someone answers, I do just also want to note that we've been joined by Chief Brophy. So thank you. Thanks, Chief Brophy, for being with us today.
Hi, Chief. Counselor, I think I'll take a stab at that. I don't foresee the Lincoln building leaving the BPS inventory anytime soon. When the new school is complete, the BCEC, Boston Chinese Evangelical Church, will be expanding the use. We'll be moving over to the Lincoln building for a period of time to expand. They already use that building. Well, pre-COVID, they used that building for various, I think it was used to support some after-school programming and some worshiping events, and they'll utilize that for a certain period of time. But again, long-term plans for that building, I can't see us taking that out of the BPS inventory just because it's a downtown site. We have very few of those, as you're aware, and there aren't a lot of spaces left in the city of Boston to construct new school buildings.
No, there aren't, and I'm pleased to hear that. I think definitely, as you know, there's a lot of appetite for more downtown school resources, and I think that I think that's something that many people in the community will be happy to hear. I'll also say I was up on the roof of that building with Principal Chang, and with some significant work. It's quite a lot of roof real estate we might think about in some future day. But and I also, in my visit to the school this fall, saw that it's obviously, I mean, you mentioned the unusualness of this verticality and sort of the kids going up and down the stairs. But I think it's worth noting that that is more or less the situation of the current Josiah Quincy Upper School. It's a bunch of stairs and they're robustly used. So it is too bad that we don't have the students running up and down them right now for you guys to measure. But that actually feels like a fairly consistent aspect to the experience. I think we've run through questions from all counselors, but I do want to just see if I have any colleagues who have any follow-up or otherwise just any closing comments. And then I'll ask the administration if you have any closing comments before we finish out. Any colleagues? Counselor Flynn, Counselor Mejia, and
I have my hand up.
Okay, and Counselor. Go ahead, Counselor Flynn.
Thank you, Council Bach, for this meeting, for your leadership as Ways and Means Chair. And I don't have any questions, but I just want to say thank you to the panelists again for being here, for your leadership on this school. I want to thank the mayor, Mayor Walsh. I know Patrick Brophy did a lot of work as well. And also the community of Chinatown in the community of the South End that have been waiting for a school like this for so many years. We're providing a tremendous opportunity for so many students. So on behalf of the residents of not only my district, but the residents across the city, I want to say thank you to the mayor and his team and the people that are on this call, including Mr. Lewis. Your presentation was excellent and the architectural design was excellent. So thank you, Mr. Lewis, and looking forward to continuing to working with everybody here as well. Thank you, Councilor Bach.
Great. Thanks so much, Counselor Flynn. Counselor Mejia?
Counselor Breeden was before me.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Counselor Braden? Sorry, I didn't see that you were back. My
Oh,
apologies.
no, I was hanging out listening and multitasking. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm very impressed with the design. I'm excited that it's going to be net carbon neutral, and I look forward to seeing this all unfold. How long will it take when will construction begin, and how long will it take?
Sure. Thank you for your question. Construction is expected to begin on swing space at the end of this current school year, so next June. And we expect to have the building up and running for construction 3 years after that. So for the beginning of school year 2024, school year 2024, 2025.
It'll be completed in school year 24-25. Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your work, and thank you for your presentation this afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Braden. Now, Councillor Mejia.
Okay, thank you, Chairwoman Bach. So I'm glad that you asked about the timeline in terms of when it's going to be done, 2025. I'm just curious as to whether or not what the landscape will look like in terms of who lives in that neighborhood in 2025, knowing how quickly things are changing here in the city of Boston, and wanted to make sure that the students who are there now, I'm just curious about what that pathway is and ensuring that students in Chinatown and the the South End are going to be able to actually go to the school. I think is important just to note that with the patterns that we have seen here in the city of Boston, most of the folks that we're building for probably won't be living here when these buildings come up. So just want to name that as the reality that we're seeing here in terms of trends in the city of Boston. And so while it's really exciting to hear about this project, I just really want to name the fact that, the displacement situation is real for a lot of families here in Boston. And I would be remiss if I didn't name it, because I know Chinatown goes hard around the displacement issue. So we just have to make sure that we continue to hold ourselves accountable to who we're building for here, and that we're not doing this in the name of the students that we're saying that we're fighting for, and then they can't live here. So I just want to be honest that I'm going to be paying attention to that along the way. I think it's important for me to name it. And then the other piece of it that I'd like to highlight is in regards to the vote tech conversation. I think because I'm the chair of workforce development, I am deeply committed to working with the city in terms of employment opportunities. I hear that we don't have the talent. I struggle with that. I find that to be somewhat offensive when I hear that we can't find people. We have people here in the city of Boston. And I think that this is something that I'm hoping that we can hold ourselves accountable to finding the people who can help build and work alongside you, Mr. Lewis, to bring your beautiful vision to life. I think that we could do so in a way that really reflects the values that we say we have here in the city of Boston. So looking forward to being a partner with you and helping you, Mr. Lewis in particular, to help you find some folks. And I know the city, I'm sure, has their own ways of doing things because that's what they've been doing for a long time. But I'm new in my role, and I'm very anxious and excited about the challenge, because when people say you can't do things, I'm going to die trying to prove how it can be done. So looking forward to working with you on that journey, as well as you, Carlton. I don't know who you, I didn't get to get your title. I'm sure I've seen you in some hearing. I don't know what department you're with. You work for the city?
I do. I'm in Public Facilities Department, PFD, one of the assistant directors.
Okay, I know that I was probably in some hearing with you. So I'll work with you too. If you're interested. I know, Mr. Lewis, you don't work for the city, so you're probably more excited to work with me than most of the people who work in the city, because some folks have some issues with me. But just so you all know, I'm here for all of it, Carlton. So despite what you may have heard, I'm here to do the work. So
all I heard is you're a hard worker, so that's
that's
right. A good thing.
All right. So Fernando, I look to you to put me in touch with Mr. Carlton Jones. And Jay, do you work for the city too?
Yes, I do. I'm with the Public Facilities Department as well.
Okay. And what about you, Jim? I missed the intros in the beginning. Who you work for?
The owner's project manager with Skanska.
I don't know.
We're here to work with you also.
Brian, I know you work for BPS, right? And
Yes,
Nate,
Councilor.
Nate, you ran away because you were scared. Okay, I know everybody who's here, so just so you all know, I don't do just TikToks, okay? For those folks who have been following me on Twitter, we're here to do the work. So looking forward to being in partnership with you all to move the work forward. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Councilor Mejia. And I'll just say again that I think we'll definitely in the new year want to be talking, more holistically, BPS and the council, Ways and Means and Workforce Development, about what it would look like to really move the needle on this with our school buildings. And I know Carlton, I think, committed to that conversation with us back at that last hearing. So we're in, and we're going to get it done. Before I close out this hearing, first I wanted to check whether Jim Dowd from Skanska did want to add anything, just in terms of the dimension that Skanska is working on this project, or if you're just here in support, Jim.
My colleagues have said everything and said it well. I was here to support the budget or MSBA questions, which did not arise, but I was ready to roll if they did.
Okay. Now you're tempting me into into them, but yeah, I guess my only question on that, on the MSBA, would be that we have every reason to expect that we would get the full reimbursement from them, that maximum level.
There are, it's based on costs that are reimbursable, so it probably won't max out at 54, but we will press them to get as much as possible, because there are costs that arise that are not reimbursable within their system.
And do you have a sense of how much of that, like what we think the reimbursable potential is? Like, are we talking about it's less, like it's 40 or 30 or 20? Like,
we're probably looking at over 50, but we topping out at the exact 54. I've got it in front of me. I think it's 54.2. Is unlikely. Yes, 54,075,000. That's unlikely that would max it out, but we'll present all the arguments and put our best foot forward to get every penny from the MSBA we can within their structure.
Got it. But you do think that we'd be likely to get north of 50 back?
That's anticipated, yes.
Okay, good. Just because obviously we're indebting the city to a certain degree, and then we hope to get as much of that reimbursement as possible. See, it's a dangerous thing to say you were here for questions that didn't come. But no, we appreciate you being here, Jim, and your work on the project. I want to close out by just giving Chief Brophy the chance to say a few words about this, if he'd like.
Madam Chair, thank you very much for the acknowledgement and for running such an efficient and informational meeting. I truly appreciate it, and I appreciate all the members of the body, specifically our District City Councilor Ed Flynn, working with us, not only just now, but when we brought this proposal and the siting, Councilor Flynn's predecessor, Councilor Linehan, former Council President Linehan, was also very, very instrumental in helping us work the team together. James Chan was involved, and a lot of folks who worked in the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services to bring this to fruition. The mayor's been steadfast ever since this discussion was about building the BAA and the JQUS over the Turnpike. Back in 2013, that was the plan that the last administration had. I think that this plan now is the absolute right thing to do. We are incredibly fortunate to have acquired this parcel and for it to be so close to create a wonderful synergy between the upper and the lower school. And we're appreciative of that. We've been engaging with not only the community, but the school community to address Councilor Mejia's concerns. We do feel like that is a very, very important part of bringing everyone together, not to use your hashtag all means all, but we are trying to incorporate a lot of those folks into the conversations, and they've been very, very positive so far. This is going to be the most expensive school ever built in the history of Boston, which is incredible. Each school keeps getting more and more costly, especially one of this size. And we're very lucky to have again, I was listening to Councillor Mejia's comments here and the concern about displacement. We're hoping that this project will be a source of neighborhood pride and encourage more and more folks to choose to stay in Boston and stay in Chinatown and choose this school as an option and an opportunity for their children. So we're incredibly excited about that. And then the other comment was, you know, the city does things a certain way and has been doing it for a long period of time. I just wanted to make mention that for years and years and years, I'm talking decades, the city did not engage with the MSBA and did not acquire funding. And through our relationships with Brian McLaughlin and the MSBA and all of the folks on the school department, the Public Facilities Department has taken a tack to engage the MSBA, and that's why we're able to acquire all this funding. And we've done it for this school, we've done it for the Boston Arts Academy, we've done it for the Dearborn, and we've done it for probably dozens more with our accelerated repair program, where that's, you know, your exterior, your roofs, windows, doors, boilers, projects like that that preserve the integrity of our facilities and our structures. So this is a little different than normal course of business. This is a Chapter 149A, which is a design build project. We are achieving a whole lot of efficiencies. So it is a little departure from the way in which the city used to just do business. But this is an incredibly exciting project. And we're happy that we have HMFH. We're happy we have Jim Dowd. All these folks are under contract with the city and with Public Facilities. So they technically, while they work for a private entity, they do work for me and the Public Facilities Department. And we're happy to partner with people, and we encourage people to come to our next community meetings. But your consideration of this vote and your support of this project will have long, wide-ranging effects, positive impacts to our district and positive impacts to this neighborhood. And I truly appreciate all of your thoughtful comments. And thank you for running such an efficient meeting. Thank you, Councilor Barb.
Thank you so much, Chief Brophy. Appreciate you being here. And thanks again to the whole team for being here. And I learned a lot and really excited about this project going forward. So I can certainly say I'll be recommending it for passage at the council meeting tomorrow. And then, as you know, the capital docket will require a second vote. So with that, I think I don't see any public testimony. Can I just confirm, Shane or Carrie, that we don't have anyone signed up?
Sorry, Councilor.
Okay, great. We were privileged to hear from Principal Chang earlier on. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this hearing of the Boston City Council's Committee on Ways and Means. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenzie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.